Welcome back. So this past week, I was lucky enough to experience an event with the spiritual teacher Madhukar, and he was actually the disciple of the teacher Papaji, who in turn was the disciple of Ramana Maharshi. So naturally, he teaches non-duality and our oneness with each other and with God. And during this event, something that was sort of interesting that I noticed was that there was repeated questions that seemed to almost lead nowhere. So during the event, Madhukar asked anyone who might have a question to come up and ask it and try to receive some kind of guidance from him. And the very first woman who came up was sort of feeling empty and sad, and that her experience of human love wasn't enough. In fact, those were the words that she was using for sort of her experience altogether, was that it's never enough. It's never enough. And Madhukar would try to answer her question as best as he could, and almost before he had finished answering it, she would ask another question, and then another, and so on. And this kept going on for some time. So this seemed to happen with each person that went up and asked a question. You could tell that when they got up and went to the back of the room to sit back down again, that many of their questions were still left unanswered in a way, and they perhaps felt more confused than they had in the first place when they went to ask their question. And maybe that's happened to you too, where you have one question of yours answered and then two more pop up right away. And really the reason why this is happening is because the whole point of the matter is being missed completely. Because if you were to truly experience what Madhukar and Papaji and Ramana Maharshi and many of these other spiritual teachers are trying to impart to you, then all of your questions would simply disappear. If you were to experience oneness and this non-duality that they speak of and that they have experienced for themselves, then who would be there to ask questions about unhappiness or stress or any of these other negatives that you are trying to surpass in your life? These things tend to drop away once you experience the truth of who you are and begin to let that reality sink into your experience. Because if you were to realize, well, all of these people and these religions and spiritual traditions are pointing at that you are the energy of consciousness and of God itself, then you wouldn't be asking in the first place. Because the mystical experience or enlightenment or samadhi or nirvana, however you choose to describe it, it exposes how trivial all these other questions are that you might have, because you haven't first realized who and what you really are. And that's why this experience is so often referred to as liberation, because it frees you from being chained at all times to this idea of who you think you are. And you at least now have the self-awareness to step away from that from time to time and say, okay, I'm not my problems, I'm not my body, and I'm not this mind full of problems that won't leave me alone. Madhukar sort of pointed to this fact at one point. Someone asked a question and he said, I would invite you to see for yourself who you really are. And that's really what this all comes down to. See for yourself. If you're unable to still your mind, then spend more time doing meditative type activities where you're able to slow down your mind and access that deeper part of yourself where true wisdom and true knowledge comes from. Because until you begin to move into that heart of things, into direct experience, you'll always be haunted by the problems of your own creation, and it'll leave you just broken. The most important question you can ask, and the one that Ramana Maharshi would always come back to, is, who am I? See for yourself what the answer to that question is, and then if you still have questions, seek out the answers. I hope that helped you, and I'll see you in the next one.